Sure. Uh, a very warm welcome to Mr. Uday Kumar Hebbar. Uh, Mr. Uday doesn't need an introduction, but I'll just introduce him. Uh, Mr. Uday is the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of CreditAccess Grameen, and is a veteran in the microfinance industry. He has established many financial institutions and has been able to introduce many successful market-based models. He has been a key architect behind the transformational journey in building CreditAccess Grameen as a very large brand in the Indian microfinance space. Sir is a seasoned banker. He's more than 35 years of rich experience in various leading various banks departments, like he was head of commercial banking and payment operations at Barclays. He has held key positions in the leadership teams for Corporation Bank and ICICI Bank. So many thanks to you to take out your time and sharing your perspectives for us.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here, Sumit. I don't know what are the. I saw the subject, which is more of a what you call code of labor codes. Labor codes. What is being proposed? Happy to be here. Happy to be participating in this discussion. So we can go ahead with discussion.
Sure.
Thank you for calling me. Maybe if I'm able to get some insights from here, some learning from here, I'll be more than happy. Thank you.
Sure, sir. Mahesh, we can start.
Yes, Sumit. Thank you. Thank you so much. Good evening, one and all. Hope my screen is visible to everyone.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you so much for the confirmation. And today we are going to discuss on the labor codes, which are upcoming labor codes. And we are going to have a brief discussion from the CEO perspective, which is Udaya sir and from Sumit. And also we are going to have how employee experience with evolving with the labor codes. So I'll move on to the next slide, which is perspective on the importance of employee experience. So moving on to the labor law landscape. So here I would like to emphasize on the legacy of the labor acts. There are 29 legacy labor acts have been subsumed under these 4 labor codes, which are being proposed and which are to be implemented shortly. So here I have provided a landscape which is related to how many sections and what is the reduction rate based on the labor codes introduction. Now, if you look at it here, it is 1 to 3 to sections. Currently, for this 29 legacy labor acts, we have 1 to 3 to section, which is very huge in nature. So after implementation of labor codes, the reduction 67% shall be reduced. We are going to have only 480 sections in new labor codes. So this is overall the landscape which are related to labor codes.
So, Mahesh, let me come in here and request Uday sir, as per your your views and your perspectives, with the easing of these labor laws and the reduction of the codes, it will be beneficial for the employees to understand and for the organizations to to relate more to the employees. Overall, on the employee experience, what are your thoughts that it will help employees as well as organizations? So,
absolutely, this is very important to review and improve the whole sections and codes. Moving from a 4 digits of section to 2 digits and 2 digits of what you call wages acts to 4 codes. It's not easy, of course. It took time. Probably we had a lot of legacy codes, legacy acts, which are changing, and it is going to be helping to the employees, because the ability to understand of an employee is not easy. we are looking at employee from I'm also an employee, my loan officer also an employee, correct? So ability of both of us are much different. So I think, we have to look from a larger employee perspective and build the codes and acts and facilities so that it's easy for them to understand. I think this is it's a quite a good right direction to for the organization also to understand properly, make it easy, and similarly for employees also to make it easy. I think it's in the right directions.
Sure.
I think they made only 4 which are more of a wages and then industrial relations and health and safety and I think social security. These are the 4 codes they made, and then everything, every sections and every acts are within these 4. So that subsumed into that 19 acts into these only 4 codes, and then and I think it's definitely quite a good right direction. Thank you.
Sure. Thank
Sure,
you. Thank you. Mahesh?
Yes. So as I mentioned, there are 4 codes. One is code on wages. Second code is occupational safety, health and working condition code 2020, code on industrial relation 2020, and code on social security 2020. I'm going to brief about acts. As I mentioned, 29 labor, the central legislation have been subsumed under these 4 codes. So I'll move on to the next slide, where I have stated here which all acts, major acts have been subsumed. Code on occupational health and safety, there are 13 central legislation have been subsumed. These are all 13 acts have been listed here, and the major acts here is the Factories Act, Plantation, Mines, and the Contract Labor Act, and the other related acts are which is specific to the nature of industry. But otherwise, these are all the major acts, and there are total 13 acts have been subsumed under the code on occupational health and safety. And move on to the next code, which is code on social security. There are 9 acts here. We have a major which are related to social security: employee compensation, employee state insurance, employee provident fund, employment exchange. The major related to the social security benefit being extended to the employee. So all these 9 codes have been all these 9 acts have been subsumed under the code on social security. Moving on to the another code, which is a code on industrial relation, so which are related to the industry in nature, which is the Trade Union Act, Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act, and Industrial Dispute. These 3 acts have been subsumed under the code on industrial relation. So move on to the 4th code, which is a code on wages. This is the first code which has been implemented. I mean to say this has been enacted, which is yet to be implemented. And there are 4 acts which are related to only wage part, which speaks only about the wage part. All 4 acts have been subsumed under the code on wages, which is Payment of Wages Act, the Minimum Wages Act, the Payment of Bonus Act, and the Equal Remuneration Act. So today we are going to discuss more on the code on wages, which are 4 acts have been subsumed.
Okay.
Thanks, Mahesh. What I'll request views from Uday sir is on, just go to the previous slide, that there are certain codes like Code of Social Security, which are way back to the pre-independence era, which is in 1923. There are certain, as soon as we got independent, the Minimum Wages Act is in force till that time. So, you have an extensive experience of around close to 4 decades now that you are, you have been leading organizations. How do you see it evolving in the practical scenario when we do the actual business as leaders?
I can give one good example to you. When I joined the bank in 1985, I got a appointment letter which defines my salary till my retirement. Okay. Your base salary and your DA, how many years that DA will remain, and then next changes, till my retirement it is defined. And today, how we give appointment letter, it's the difference between that era to this era. That's the difference. So I think it kept on evolved over a period of time. I think different acts are implemented based on different businesses, different type of industries. For example, there is something called BD Workers Act. So So
Yes,
BD Workers Act or Roboto Workers are some mines different, factories different, hazard are different. So each one that has a different type of industry and ubiquitous to that particular industry. Probably, it is a time to merge and put under one factory or a safety. It's nothing but employee safety, end of the day. So that is for that. Similarly, social security also, many different types are there. Even today, we are struggling. For example, you know better, in many districts, you still don't have ESI, even today. I think, I know we are trying to see how to ensure ESIC for such employees or health safety cover for such employees where there is no ESIC in the district. I know in 5 Maharashtra district there is no ESIC hospitals. So automatically you have to find a different way to find out a social security or a health security for them. So then we have to tie up with the hospital or tie up with the insurance company to provide a separate health premium for them. So this new code ensures that all districts of country will have ESIC. All employees can accept ESIC benefits. These are needed long back, not today. But then we have to make it fast. It's more the delay here is more the impact on the employee satisfaction for me.
Yes,
Absolutely. So this is very, very insightful that that today that with the changing demands of the
I'll go one more example. I'm in micro industry. Industry follows certain rules. Some of the players. So every employer try to ensure that what is minimum in that I will pay. So the minimum of Karnataka to minimum of Bihar is much different, right? But you are using the same employee for the same work. I'm definitely unhappy if when I work in Bihar, I will get 8,000, and I work in Karnataka, I will get 16,000. This is for the same work. Same work. It's actually, there's no natural justice. Actually, we need to look at that also. It's very, very important. Very important. So many of the employers make that mistakes also. No, we should be equal work and equal for equal work. We have to equal pay, like equal gender equality. So we have to work equality also need to be there. So even today, that kind of disparity is there. We should find a way to get it resolved. I think if employer are not doing, at least statute has to do it. I think the labor codes are in that direction.
Absolutely. This is also very important for the equal work. You should get equal paid, and and the expectation of the new generations which are coming into the workforce, which are just starting, their expectations are also to be calibrated with the changing environment around us.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, sir. I think Mahesh, you can continue, please.
Yes. As I mentioned, these are all codes are going to be implemented shortly, which have been subsumed under 29 the acts, central acts. Now we are moving on to the code on wages. We are going to have a detailed discussion on the code on wages part, and here the applicability, which I have mentioned here. What is the existing applicability, and what could be the changes after the implementation of the code, which is code on wages. Now coming to the applicability part, here also I have classified into two. One is related to establishment and another one is related to applicability to employees, how the changes are going to take place. Coming to the minimum wages, when the minimum wages has been defined or the minimum wages notification has been published, only certain industries have been defined or notified in the notification. Only such industries are applicable for the minimum wages which has been prescribed in the notification. But however, in the upcoming code on wages or in the labor code, it is stated that the minimum wages shall be applicable to all establishment, and there wouldn't be any as such industry specification. So that one, the parameter has been eliminated here, and it is going to be applicable to all establishment. Move on to the Payment of Wages Act. Again, in the Payment of Wages Act, it is very clearly explicitly stated that it shall be applicable to the employee who's earning the wages of 24,000. So this 24,000, the parameter has also been removed, and at the same time, applicability of the establishment. Even the Payment of Wages Act has been defined. One certain section, it clearly says that payment of Wages Act shall be applicable to certain establishments which shall be notified through the separate notification. If the notification is not published, then the Payment of Wages Act shall not be applicable to certain establishment. Even this clarity also has been bring in under the Code on Wages, and they have stated that it shall be applicable to all establishment. So move on to the Payment of Bonus Act, which they have stated that currently the Payment of Bonus Act, which shall be applicable 20 or more employees in an establishment and 10 or more employees in a factory. However, in the Code on Wages, it is stated that the Payment of Bonus Act shall be given the empowerment to each state, where the state can also limit the threshold, which means what has been stated in the central labor code, I mean to the central rules. So the state is having the empowerment to reduce the number, otherwise they can't increase, to bring more number of establishments under the purview or under the ambit of the Payment of Bonus Act, which is one more the changes which is have been going to be introduced in the labor code.
I think what they said is the central will define the threshold and state government cannot reduce below that, right?
They cannot increase more. I mean to say, if central state it is 20 or more, they can even reduce. They can say like the state government can mention that
the number of employees.
Yes, okay. Number of employees.
But
and also,
I was looking about the minimum wages. I think there will be central threshold, and you cannot do below that. The minimum has to be either equal or more of the central threshold.
Minimum wages, it is related to the specific state. They have stated two things in the minimum wages. One, it is a state specific. They have brought in all industries under the minimum wages ambit. And other one, they have also introduced floor minimum wages.
Floor defined by central, and
yes.
State cannot define a minimum wage less than that floor.
Yes, you are right. Absolutely.
To be either equal or more. Yes. That's what I was saying. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. You are right. So move on to the Equal Remuneration Act. There are certain listed establishment, or like the Equal Remuneration Act is not applicable. Now they have stated in the code that Equal Remuneration Act shall be applicable to all classified industry or all types of industry. So more to the applicability to the employees. As there is a change in the establishment, it shall also impact the employees. Again, the Minimum Wages Act is going to be applicable to all categories of employees. Similarly, Payment of Wages Act, there wouldn't be any threshold limit as such, 24,000. It shall be applicable to all categories of employees. And the Payment of Bonus Act, they have stated that drawing 21,000. Now, the state government has the empowerment. The code has stated that the state government has the empowerment to increase the threshold. They cannot decrease from 21,000. However, they can increase. Again, it is again state to state. So payment of bonus, the applicability to the employees will varies from state to state.
Correct.
This is the major change in terms of the applicability of these four major acts. When it comes to code on wages, these are all the major changes.
I think they also, top of that, Mahesh, they also said that 8.35% of the wages or minimum 100 rupee per day or something, or some value, I don't know exactly. Something also they defined as a minimum value. Up to 20% you can go. If the 100 rupee per day is higher than the 8.35%, then it can go up to 20% of the value as a bonus.
Oh, wage, yes, they have stated 20% of the wage. I will run through those clarification in the payment of the way what they have defined as a wage in the code on wages.
I think there's a huge employee protection, and then the what you call security has been established here. I think it is very, very important for an employee. I know this is not yet what you call past, yet to come. For information here, we implemented it last year itself. Particularly on the minimum wages for provident fund, that we implemented already, which is already recommended by the parliament.
Oh, that's really good.
We thought that it's important for the employees, and it also gives a forced savings for the employees for the future. Therefore, we thought it is important. We implemented already for the employees who are salary less than 21,000.
Absolutely.
Good news.
Absolutely. And also, this will bring more and more companies, which are smaller companies, into the entire fold, or into the entire, compliance mechanism. And the employees who are working for those smaller organizations can then, be benefited overall.
Lot of time employers think that it will cost, but the investment in your employees, I don't think it's a cost, it's an investment. And then you will get the return by your employees if they're happy. I think we should look at as investment for the employees of cost of operations.
That's a very, very, very great thought. So because many very very important is the entire employee experience, the employee retention, and the longevity for getting that. And certainly, progressive organizations thoughts are very, very important around around this. Yeah.
I will start checking. So moving on to the wage. So code on wages very, very explicitly, or very in a good manner, they have framed the definition, and they have mentioned what is, there should be a common definition. If you refer all four labor codes, so there is no change in the wage definition. It's a common definition where they have cleared the ambiguity. Now if you refer the existing acts, minimum wages has this different, the wage definition, payment of wages is having a different, again provident fund is having a different, payment of gratuity, payment of bonus. So the all wages is like was giving, even today we are all are having the different interpretation and different in terms of understanding the what is wage, what quantum I have to consider as a wage, and what all are going to be form part of, like when I consider, for example, for PF, what all components which I have to consider for the contribution towards the PF. So there was a huge ambiguity. Even today we have an ambiguity. So this ambiguity has been very clearly lifted in the code on wages, and they have stated there is going to be a common definition under the code on wages. And this, they have also excluded certain components called HRA. They have very clearly stated HRA is excluded from the definition of wages. And the wage in kind can maximum can go up to 15%. Sir, Uday sir, as you rightly mentioned, you are actually quoted that example, or you quoted that particular percentage. Here they have stated off of your total remuneration, gross remuneration paid to an employee, the 50% should be capped to the wage. So wage should not be lesser than the 50% of the remuneration, fixed remuneration being paid to an employee. The exclusion, what, how they have mentioned in the definition is, they have stated that exclusion portion cannot go beyond 50% of your gross remuneration. So that's when what will happen, remaining 50% is going to be called as a wage. So there wouldn't be any lesser than 50% of your gross remuneration. The wage is going to be called as a 50% of your gross remuneration. In case if your exclusion, you will be able to accommodate your exclusion within maybe the 30% of your gross remuneration, the remaining 70% will be called as a wage. So that's when the benefit, the social security benefit and other benefits shall be extended to employee. And looked into employee, the parameter, this particular definition has been very clearly classified.
Absolutely, absolutely. As I said earlier, it's very, very important for the long-term savings, social security, long-term retirement benefits or superannuation benefits. All will increase the total saving by the employees to that extent, which is very important. And then the ambiguities have been removed. The players who play, I know sometime some guy when he joins, he comes and say, no, I want everything in cash. No, don't want to be no PF, no nothing. Everything give me on a monthly basis. So I think these all ambiguities have been removed, because it's all because of some players playing with it, to make it attractive. Probably sometime maybe relevant for some segment, but still, end of the day, employee security is most important. I think it's important to do.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Ambiguities have been removed completely now.
Wage definition under the code on wages, the wage has been defined in section 2Y, and they have mentioned two. One is substantive and another one is inclusive. What all are going to be included as a wage under the code on wages? One is basic DA retaining allowance, and if any, which shall be considered as a wage. What does not include, which is any bonus payable under any law, any value of house accommodation, any contribution paid by the employer to any pension, and any conveyance allowance, any sum paid to the different special expenses, HRA. Very clearly they have stated HRA. Otherwise, there was an ambiguity on the HRA in many of the other acts called like bonus, minimum wages. So remuneration payable under any reward or settlement, any overtime allowance, or any commission payable. These are all from A to I. They have stated as these are all exclusion portions. Such allowance or remuneration being paid to an employee, those remuneration can be considered as an exclusion from the wage definition, which can go up to 50%, as I stated in my earlier slide. So here, as I mentioned, they have mentioned if payment made by the employer to the employee under clause, they have exceeds one off, they have saying that exclusion cannot go beyond 50% of your gross remuneration. So very clearly, this has been stated in the section 2Y. And I have an example of.
Is there this? They also made that 50%, but not less than 15,000 something they mentioned.
No, they have not mentioned about the PF. They have not prescribed about that PF, which is capping to 15,000. Again, the code is silent on it. And similarly, under ESIC, the capping of 21,000 also, it is silent, where they have stated that central government shall notify with a separate notification.
Okay.
So based on the code, I have illustrated the sample salary structure, how the impact is going to be to the wage part. Coming to the existing, I have considered the first table as an existing salary component, where basic is a 6,000, DA is 2,000, HRA is 4,000, conveyance allowance is 3,000, and washing allowance. So amounting to 18,000, which is a total monthly remuneration being paid. And here basic and HRA alone is going to be a form part of wage based on the wage definition. So which is amounting to only 8,000, which is lesser than the 50% of the gross remuneration paid to an employee. So that's when, in case if we have this salary structure, like if any of the company is having a salary structure which is less than 50% of the basic and DA, which is less than 50% of the gross remuneration, the quantum will increase now. How the quantum will increase? 50% you have to make it as your basic and DA, which is 9,000. The quantum either from conveyance, HRA, or washing allowance, 1,000 has to be accommodated with the basic and DA. So that's when the 50% of your total remuneration should be wage, and remaining the exclusion portion, which they have stated as a HRA, conveyance allowance, and washing allowance, can be accommodated with the 9,000. So that's when the quantum will increase, the wage quantum will increase. Subsequently, other social security benefits as such, PF, gratuity, ESIC, all such, the quantum shall increase accordingly.
So I just thought we'll have Uday sir's view on this. So when we are changing this structure, will it be a lot of change management for the organizations? One, because traditionally we have seen from time they have been working on some flexible structures depending on the various rules of the states and all that. And for the employees also, because in some of the cases the take home will decrease, and specifically for the employees who are at the beginners or at the bottom of the pyramid, and to which many of them are the microfinance customers also in some ways or the other. So how do you see that changing over a period of time?
I think it's appreciating the savings and the future benefits is very, very important. Clearly explaining them is important, actually. Even if I agree that if we are sticking to a local state level wages act, then it will be very low, definitely. So to that extent, we have to explain. We have to explain that the contribution from employee and employer, which will go into PF, which will be a long-term benefit. The gratuity again increases because of this, but again a long-term benefit. So all these are a long-term benefits for the employee and the family. I think that there's a duty for the employers to basically explain clearly about the benefit of this, other than There may be a small variation in terms of take home, but the larger impact is to be explained. Where the return on PF is much higher compared to others. These are very, very important to explain and clarify to the employees. And this whole impact we are talking about is clarification or the rural and minimum wages. But there is other side is the cash flow change will be for the higher level employees actually. It's not here the variation is not very high. For somebody who is drawing 10 lakh rupees, if you take an example, cash flow will change drastically. For example, your treated wages is only 20%. And if you want to take it to 50%, then the cash flow changes a lot.
Absolutely. And basis on your thoughts, how will the employees take it? Do they have to be counseled? Because suddenly this will, this will have, various changes. Some people will want a social security, whereas some people will require a take home. But when we do a uniform thing, how should organizations take over that?
I agree that there will be some cash flow issues. There will be some misunderstandings, but I think it's important to explain and create awareness about the change of law and the benefit out of it. So it actually will not make any difference for the employee to go and check in other company. There are also rules the same, right? What is to be made aware about it, the change of the law and how it benefits to him. I think that clarity, if it is given, I don't think it's everybody. Because it changes by statute, it's not by an individual organization changing, right? If an organization changing, I can tell that okay, some other organization will do, like what was happening earlier. Somebody will do 5% minimum basic and 25% commission, so or other allowances. You can't do that, right? So if it's a statute, then every organization will do the same thing.
Correct.
So making awareness, telling the benefit of this, telling the long-term benefit for the family and the security. So those are very, very important for organizations. Maybe some counseling needed, some level of advice.
Sure, sir. I think Mahesh.
Yes. I'll move on to the next slide. So based on the increase, there's a
before
increase in
clarity. I remember the Minimum Wages Act says that even it is HR or though you can exclude here, minimum wages treat that is actually that's excluded from minimum wages. Therefore, if a state government defines a minimum wage, they allow the minimum has to be without all those things, right?
Yes.
Correct. Minimum has to be. Let's say if Maharashtra government says my minimum wage is 15,000, it's excluding HRA commission. Now it's only basic plus GA has to be 15,000, right?
Yes, sir. But still, there is an ambiguity when it comes to Maharashtra. Again, a HRA is mandatory there. HRA, there is a separate act, and where it clearly clarifies 5% of your gross remuneration should have a HRA. Now, based on this code implementation, now how state government is going to
react, it will change. We don't know. Correct.
Which we are not exactly sure on this, and how government is going to, like state government, Maharashtra is going to take a call. How they are going to accommodate this 5% within the wage of 50%, or in addition to that 50%, they are going to increase 5% of HRA, which we have to avoid till the Maharashtra government is going to clarify.
State has different rules there.
Yes.
Correct. So one thing that is coming out is that that in the benefits is that maternity benefits will be on the slightly declining, because they will be now on the on a different parameter. So do you think that women participation in the workforce
it's 26 weeks, right? It's going to 26 weeks.
It is 26 weeks, sir. Maternity benefit shall be extended to women employee 26 weeks. But Sumit is raising a concern here. See, when the wage, currently the minimum maternity benefit being paid to the total gross salary shall be paid to women employee, wherein in the code it is stated the wage. You have to pay the wage. So when your quantum is decreased from 100 rupees to 50 rupees, then the women employee during her maternity, she will be entitled to receive only 50 rupees in place of 100, which is existing process. So what could be the impact, like how women employee can
Yeah,
like think about
not aware
this?
about this. I thought they should get full benefits during the maternity period. Oh.
Correct. So maybe, we can, as a industry leaders, we can take it up with the regulatory bodies and say that, because more women inclusion in the workforce is very, very important. And this particular maternity benefit decrease can be a potential dampener to that participation of in the mainstream workforce.
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we'll take this as a
Correct.
feedback, and in our representation to the authorities, we'll
My
put it across.
understanding was full salary. Wages means wages. I don't. I don't. Wages. I thought that whatever salary they will continue to get for that 6 months or 6.5 months. I think 6 months. So they should get that.
Sure.
If it's not if there's ambiguity, I think we should be taken up.
Yes, there is an ambiguity since they have stated wage has to be considered for the computation of PF contribution, gratuity contribution, employee compensation. So that's when even for the maternity also we have to consider wage. So when you consider as a wage, then the contract shall come down. So department has to further provide a clarity, and in case if any dispute, yes, we can go to the department and raise our concern there.
Agree.
So based on the wage change, there is a huge, the major change in the wage part. The implication I have stated here, the implication part, how employers' liability towards PF, ESCC contribution, bonus, and gratuity vary. How it is the 50% of it, as it is going to be a 50% of wage, then the PF has to be contributed on the 50% of wage. However, there is a prescribed ceiling limit currently 15,000. Even code is silent on it. In case the ceiling has been lifted by the Provident Fund organization, then the PF contribution has to be made on the 50% of your gross remuneration. For example, if the gross remuneration is 50,000, then the PF has to be contributed on 25,000. So that's when what will happen. The industries, those who are contributing on the prescribed ceiling limit, shall increase to 15,000 to 25. However, the department has not confirmed on the ceiling part. Even the code is also silent. So once we get the clarity from the Employee Provident Fund organization, then we will get a better clarity. But however, there are many companies, those who are contributing on an actual basic, which is actual wage. So such companies have to increase their quantum towards the PF. That's when the PF contribution will be increased. And move on to the ESIC. As I mentioned, the maternity benefit shall be deprived to women employee, where she will be entitled to only 50%. Similarly, even if ESIC, the wage has to be considered in case if the number of employee who's getting salary of 30,000, currently he is out of ESIC bracket since his gross salary is more than 21,000. But when you looked into the wage code definition, then the 50% wage only I should consider for ESIC applicability. That's when the quantum, the wage is going to become 15,000. Then all such employees are going to come under the ambit of ESIC. Here, maybe the government has looked into cover more number of employees or no more number of establishment under the ESIC ambit. That's when they have stated. But however, even ESIC threshold or ceiling amount has not been stated anything in the code. Further, they stated that the ESIC department has to come up with a separate notification. So that's when current existing in the code, it says that the ESIC has to be considered on the 50% of the wage. The gratuity quantum shall increase similarly.
Mahesh, I think we are at we are already at, at the very few minutes here. So, sir, we would request your views overall, so that what are the few takeaways that we can take from your rich experience with, young CEOs like me and the participants can learn from your experience, and then, can take ahead.
I think, the overall momentum towards uniform code or a code, producing and looking at the social security, looking at the benefits, is definitely the employee favor. But it will cost a bit extra for the company, maybe initially.
Right.
Then I think it's an investment, and institution need to work towards it. Wherever ambiguity, obviously we have to go and check it. I think if I remember correctly, the government was planning to do a stepped up approach in terms of the gratuity, PF part. If I understand correctly, 50% they will do 25%, then go to 40 or 50 something. I don't remember. Some discussion was there in this direction. If it happens, that is better for some companies. But this in the right direction, and always we should look at benefiting to employees. That will help the organizations. I think we should not shy away to give the benefit to employees. So unfortunately, many times organizations think about cutting employee expenses when the moment they want to reduce the cost, which is wrong.
Right.
The needle will not move much action. It's only move the only needle of dissatisfaction moves, not the cost action. So we should really work towards the employee benefits, work towards the employee securities, work towards the eventually more employee satisfactions, which will turn out to be a happy employee and employee loyalty. In any companies, any corporates across the globe, if you have a loyal employees and loyal customers, there's less chances that you will fail.
Absolutely. This is the key takeaway for all of us. So thank you so much for sharing your perspectives, because there are very few few perspectives like this and chance that we get for senior leaders and change makers like you to come and share your thoughts on this platform. And we'll certainly take these inputs, and when we are consulting other companies, when we are rolling it out for hand-holding other companies, we'll also incorporate these learnings as the best practices while we take next steps. Thank you so much.
Thank you for taking step of discussion. I think if possible, share this thread. Probably I will also look at carefully and see if anything I can do. I will let you know. But thank you for having me here. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mahesh. Thank you.
There are some questions, but we could not answer. Maybe
we can. Mahesh can answer that from the legal perspective. And sir, if there is anything which requires your perspectives, we will certainly reach out to you on the questions and then share it with the participants.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Hello.